Hi and welcome to the second section. So in this section, we're going to look at how to work with the API Gateway service. So these are the following topics we're going to look at in this section. So first is building the API Gateway. Next is we're going to look at how to work with resources and methods. We'll look how to deploy an API, how to map request parameters, and how to map response payloads. So let's go to the first video in this section, which is building an API Gateway. In this video, we'll see what do we need to build the API Gateway, what are we actually going to do, and our working environment. So we're actually going to see a demo on how we're going to start setting up the API Gateway. So what do we need first? Well, first and foremost, we need an API to work with. Remember, the API Gateway interacts with an already existing and available API. Now, you can use APIs which are hosted on EC2 instances. So you could have an EC2 instance hosted in AWS, and you could have an API hosted on this EC2 instance. You could have any publicly available API on the internet to work with the API Gateway as well. Now, for the purpose of our demo and going along and understanding how the API Gateway works, we are going to have a web API application. This web API application is built in .NET. It works with a set of products and customers. It's a very simple API application. This app is hosted as a web app in Azure. So to make it interesting, to show you that you can actually have the API Gateway point to any publicly available API, we're actually going to host the API all the way in Azure and show that this still works. So what are we going to do? Well, we have our API Gateway. We're going to get that set up. We're going to ensure that the API Gateway can work with the API products, so the web API, the product section, and customers. So now let's go ahead. Let me show you what we've set up in Azure, the products API and the customers API, so that we know what we're going to be dealing with. So now here I have the web API open for our customers example. So this is hosted, I said, in Azure, has a web app. So you can see we have an array of customers. Each customer has an ID and a name, and we currently have 3 customers defined. So if you go to the API/values URL for this web API, you will get the list of all the customers, so the ID and the name. Now, the same way we have another URL which points to products. So again, the product has an ID and a name, and again, there are 3 products. So just keep this in mind. We're going to be using this for our demo. So when you use or issue the get command, you will actually get the list of all the products over here and the list of all the customers. Now here we are in the AWS management console. We're just going to quickly create our API Gateway first, and then we'll host the resources in the next chapter. So let's go to, first of all, your region. So please make a note of the region you are in. So currently we are in the Singapore region. Let's go to the API Gateway. So the API Gateway service is in the networking and content delivery section. Click on the API Gateway. Now, if you don't have any API gateways already defined, you will get the Get Started screen. So click on the Get Started screen. Now here you can click or create an example API. But since we are creating one from scratch because we already have an API in place, let's click on New API, give the API name. Now you have 2 types of endpoints. So one is edge optimized or the other is regional. Now when you have an edge optimized endpoint, what happens is then you use a CloudFront. So CloudFront will be used behind the scenes to ensure that edge locations are used to deliver the response to the APIs to the user. So depending upon where the user is, the location of the user, the edge location closest to the user will be used to give the response back from the API. So obviously there is a cost difference between edge optimized and regional. So regional is pertinent to a particular region. So let's say all of your users are currently in the Singapore region. You're developing the API Gateway only in the Singapore region. Then you can choose regional, and obviously there will be a cost difference between both. If you have users distributed across the world, I urge you to use the edge optimized endpoint. So we're going to leave the edge optimized endpoint for now, and let's go ahead and create the API. So that's it. Our API Gateway is now set up.